Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to this video. Today has been a pretty good day because of course the GTX 980 and 970 have been announced. Now both new cards use the 28nm process in the new GM204 chip. Now there is of course loads of reviews as always, which is a good thing with these sorts of things, and they are all out now, so by all means go and read them. This video will just be a summary of all of them, so all the different reviews, and it will explain all the key features of the cards and which, if any, you should be buying. Game in the background is Titanfall, and I'll touch on why that is in the background in just a second. I wouldn't get overly excited, there is a reason, but it's not really a massive reason. Now all next generation games, so I mean games that were released on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One as well as the PC, have all shared a common downside, and that's that they require more video RAM to run at the higher settings. Now the 780 Ti and 780 both had 3GB of VRAM, and the 770 had 2GB. Now this meant that VRAM could become very limiting, especially at higher resolutions like 4K. Both new cards have 4GB of VRAM, which is a relief, and it should be enough to play all games at 4K, which is more than anyone should need at the moment at least, unless you're having a really high-end triple monitor setup. 4GB of, I really can't say that, 4GB of VRAM is going to be enough for pretty much quite a few years to come, with the exception of a very select and very few amount of titles. Now the reference design has been kept very similar to the Titan design, with the addition of a new backplate, and that backplate has a removable section for SLI setups without any spare slots for spacing. So that means if you've got a smaller case, or you're just running an M80X board that you want to use SLI, it means that you're going to have this removable section that you can actually take off, and it means that your cards are going to run, hopefully anyway, a little bit cooler, but of course how much difference this will make remains to be seen. The ports on the back have also been changed. Finally, there is a HDMI 2.0 port, which allows basically 4K TVs to run at 60 frames a second. It's not just 4K TVs, it's obviously all 4K screens and devices that have an HDMI 2.0 port, and it's changed so that now there's only a single DVI, that's a dual link DVI, and there's 3 display ports as well. So you could actually in theory have 3 monitors all with G-Sync powered by a DisplayPort and this card all off one card, which is pretty exciting. On the software front, there have also been a few new exciting features. Firstly is a new scaling algorithm that internally renders at a higher resolution before downscaling to your native resolution. This gives you an image with less jaggy lines and anomalies. So the example they used there was Dark Souls 2, because it's quite easy to run. Stuff like the grass and things looked pretty horrible at 1080p when you were moving, but with this new algorithm it makes them look a lot better. Now, the next thing is the addition of what's called VXGI, or Voxel Global Illumination. This will only be supported in certain games, but this essentially improves indirect lighting, like I say, in the game supporting the tech, so things will look a lot more realistic. And if you look at some of the examples they've done, I have to say it is pretty impressive, but it will probably be quite taxing on the system, so we'll have to wait and see how that actually turns out and what games will support that. Outside of that, there are quite a few under the hood improvements that are too long to go into, but of course you can read them on the Nvidia website at other places. The Nvidia website gives you all the details as you'd expect it to on all these cards, but the thing that caught my eye and I thought was pretty bloody impressive was the fact that both new cards can use the hardware encoding through Shadowplay like they could before. However, they can do this to create 4K video files at 60 frames a second, which is absolutely nuts. I was thinking about this earlier, and I hadn't even realised that it was at 60 frames a second as well. It means that I'm going to be able to do casual play videos, review videos at 4K at 60 frames a second, so everyone will be able to benefit. If you've got 4K monitor, obviously, then you can watch them at 4K at 60 frames a second. But even if you don't, then it means you can just watch your videos at 60 frames a second when YouTube supports that. So I have to say that is very impressive. I'm sure it will tax the system quite a lot. But obviously I'll wait until I can actually test that to give you the lowdown on how well that works. But of course, what about performance? I'm sure that's what you're thinking. Well, I'm not going to stand here and tell you a load of numbers, because personally I don't think really that's what you want to know. But as a summary of all the reviews, they're all very positive, that the 980 performance is similar to that of the 780 Ti, and in many cases better. The 790 performance is pretty much between the 780 and 780 Ti. Of course, both cards are much cheaper than the counterparts that were previously available, but both cards also have a higher performance gain at high resolutions like 4K, so they both perform relatively well at 4K. However, if you want to use ultra settings, 4K 60 frames a second, you're still going to need 2 or more cards. This almost got that wrong. The 980 is currently selling for $549 and £540, and the 970 is selling for $329 or £260 or thereabouts. I should be getting my hands on one or more of the cards very soon, so stay tuned for more details and my full impressions once I've actually paid my own money for them. Let me know what you thought of this video. Give it a like if you thought it was useful, give it a dislike if you thought it wasn't very useful. Obviously my resources are quite limited because I didn't get my hands on a review copy of either card, but I'd like to think I've done quite a good job of summarising what's going on and what obviously the cards do. So like I say, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.